The deafening screech of Ethan Foster's ancient lawnmower sputtering to a stop in the middle of Mrs. Johnson's yard felt like the perfect metaphor for his life broken down just when he needed it most. Sweat trickled down his neck as the July sun beat mercilessly on his back, and he fought the urge to kick the useless machine. He couldn't afford to fix it if he broke it further, and he certainly couldn't afford to replace it. "Come on, you piece of junk," he muttered, yanking the pull cord for the 5th time. Nothing. Not even a cough of life. His 6-year-old daughter, Lily, sat on the sidewalk nearby, her legs swinging as she licked an ice pop that Mrs. Johnson had given her. Her blonde pigtails bounced with each kick of her feet, and despite his frustration, Ethan couldn't help but smile. She was the reason he was here, the reason he took on odd jobs on weekends when he wasn't working his main construction gig. Every extra dollar meant one step closer to giving her the life she deserved. "Daddy, is the mower taking a nap?" Lily called out, blue ice pop dripping down her chin. "Something like that, sweetheart," Ethan replied, running a hand through his dark hair. "Just a little break." As he knelt to examine the mower's engine, he heard the crunch of gravel. A sleek black Tesla pulled up to the curb in front of the house next door, the mansion that had been empty for months. The neighborhood had been buzzing with rumors about who had purchased it, but no one seemed to know anything concrete. The car door opened and a woman stepped out. Ethan tried not to stare, but it was hard not to notice her. She wore a simple white blouse and fitted jeans that probably cost more than his monthly rent, and her chestnut hair was pulled back in a casual ponytail. Even from a distance, he could see she was striking. She glanced his way, and Ethan quickly returned his attention to the mower, suddenly aware of his sweat-stained t-shirt and dirt-smudged jeans. "Excuse me." Her voice was clear and confident as she walked toward him. Ethan stood, wiping his hands on his jeans. "Yes, madam, I'm Willow Prescott." "I just moved in next door," she gestured toward the mansion. "I couldn't help but notice you're having some trouble with your equipment." Up close, her eyes were a warm hazel, and Ethan found himself momentarily tongue-tied. "Yeah, this old thing's finally given up, I think." "I'm Ethan Foster, by the way. This is my daughter, Lily." Lily waved enthusiastically, her face now sticky with blue syrup. "Hi, I'm 6, Willow smiled, a genuine expression that lit up her face. "It's very nice to meet you, Lily." She turned back to Ethan. "Listen, I actually have a riding mower in the garage that came with the house. I have no idea how to use it, and my lawn is starting to look like a jungle. Would you be interested in helping me out? I'd pay, of course." Before Ethan could respond, Lily piped up. "My daddy can fix anything." "He's super strong too." Ethan felt his cheeks warm. "Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I do know my way around a mower." Willow looked at him expectantly, and Ethan quickly calculated. He still needed to finish Mrs. Johnson's lawn, but an extra job would help with this month's tight budget. "I'd be happy to help," he said. "I need to finish here first, though. I promised Mrs. Johnson." "That's no problem. How about tomorrow morning, say around 9? 9 works for me." As Willow turned to leave, she paused. "And Mr. Foster, bring your daughter if you need to." "I've got a pool that's not getting any use." Lily gasped in delight. "A pool, Daddy? Can I bring my floaties?" Ethan smiled at his daughter's excitement. "We'll see, sweetheart. Thank you, Miss Prescott. That's very kind." "Willow, please." She gave them a little wave and walked back to her house, the sunlight catching in her hair. Ethan watched her go, then turned his attention back to the broken mower. Somehow, he'd finish Mrs. Johnson's lawn today, even if he had to use her ancient push mower from the shed. Tomorrow would bring a new job, and maybe, just maybe, things were looking up. The next morning, Ethan pulled his beat-up truck into Willow's circular driveway, trying not to feel intimidated by the massive colonial-style home with its perfectly symmetrical windows and grand entrance. Lily was practically bouncing in her car seat, her pink backpack filled with her swimming essentials clutched tightly to her chest. "Remember what we talked about, Lily Bug," Ethan said as he helped her out of the truck. "Best behavior, okay? This is work for Daddy." "I know, Daddy." "I'll be super good." She made a zipping motion across her lips, then immediately broke into a wide grin. "Do you think her pool has a slide?" "I have no idea, sweetheart." He grabbed his tool belt from the truck bed and took Lily's hand as they approached the front door. Before they could ring the bell, the door swung open. Willow stood there in denim shorts and a light blue t-shirt, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked different from yesterday, more relaxed, less polished, but no less beautiful. "Good morning," she greeted them with a warm smile. "Right on time." "Morning," Ethan replied, suddenly aware of how worn his work boots looked against the gleaming marble of her entryway. "Hi," Lily chimed in. "I brought my floaties," Willow laughed, the sound light and musical. "Perfect, the pool is all ready for you. Come on in, I'll show you around." As they followed her through the house, Ethan couldn't help but notice the sparse furnishings. The place was immaculate, with high ceilings and expensive-looking art on the walls, but it lacked the lived-in feel of a home. There were no family photos, no knickknacks, no signs of a personal life. "I just moved in last week," Willow explained, as if reading his thoughts, "still getting settled." "It's a beautiful house," Ethan said sincerely, "thank you. It's a bit much for one person, but I fell in love with the property." She led them through a set of French doors onto a sprawling backyard. "And this is what sold me." The lawn was indeed overgrown, but beyond it lay a stunning patio area with a large infinity pool overlooking a small private lake. Lily's eyes widened. "Wow, it's like a hotel," Willow laughed again. "I suppose it is. Would you like to swim while your dad works on the lawn?" "Can I, Daddy? Please?" Ethan hesitated. "I don't want to impose. I can keep an eye on her while I work." "Nonsense," Willow said. "I was actually planning to catch up on some reading by the pool. I'd love the company." After making sure Lily was properly equipped with her floaties and sunscreen, Ethan headed to the garage where Willow showed him the riding mower, a top-of-the-line model that looked barely used. "The previous owners left it behind," she explained. "I think they thought the gardener came with the house, but apparently he retired and moved to Florida." "Their loss, my gain," Ethan said with a smile. "This is a great machine. It'll make quick work of your lawn." "I trust you completely," Willow said, handing him a key. "I'll be with Lily if you need anything." As Ethan mowed the expansive lawn, he occasionally glanced toward the pool area. Willow sat on the edge with her feet in the water, watching Lily paddle around with her floaties. They seemed to be chatting animatedly, and several times he heard Lily's delighted giggle carrying across the yard. The scene stirred something in his chest, a longing he usually kept buried. Since his wife had left them 3 years ago, it had just been him and Lily against the world. He'd thrown himself into being both mother and father to his daughter, working multiple jobs to keep them afloat. Dating had been the furthest thing from his mind. But now, watching this beautiful, kind woman interact so naturally with his daughter, he felt a flutter of something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Interest, attraction, possibility. He quickly pushed the thoughts aside. Willow was clearly wealthy, probably some high-powered executive or heiress. This was just a job, nothing more. 2 hours later, the lawn was immaculate, and Ethan had even taken the initiative to edge the walkways and trim around the flower beds. As he put away the equipment, Willow appeared at the garage door, her skin slightly flushed from the sun. "It looks amazing," she said, genuine appreciation in her voice. "You've gone above and beyond." "Just doing a thorough job," Ethan replied, wiping sweat from his brow. "Where's Lily?" "She's drying off on the patio. I hope you don't mind, but I ordered us some lunch. You must be starving after all that work." "Oh, that wasn't necessary, I insist. Besides, Lily told me you make the best peanut butter sandwiches, but sometimes a girl needs variety." Her eyes twinkled with amusement. Ethan couldn't help but laugh. "She said that, did she? Well, I can't argue with a food critic." They made their way to the patio where Lily sat wrapped in a fluffy towel, her hair dripping. A table had been set with a spread of sandwiches, fruit, and lemonade. "Daddy, Miss Willow can do a handstand underwater, and she knows all about stars and planets and stuff. Is that so?" Ethan raised an eyebrow at Willow. She shrugged modestly. "I studied astronomy in college. It's still a hobby of mine." As they ate lunch, Ethan found himself increasingly intrigued by Willow. She was intelligent and well-spoken, but completely unpretentious. She listened intently to Lily's 6-year-old ramblings about kindergarten and her pet goldfish, asking thoughtful questions that made his daughter beam with importance. "So what brings you to our little corner of the world?" Ethan asked eventually. "This neighborhood is nice, but it's not exactly where I'd expect someone like you to settle." Someone like me. Willow tilted her head curiously. Ethan fumbled, realizing how presumptuous he sounded. I just meant, this is a pretty quiet suburb. Most younger people heading up in their careers prefer the city. Ah, she nodded. I wanted a change of pace. My work allows me to be anywhere, and I was tired of the noise and pressure of city life. I grew up in a small town not unlike this one, and I guess I missed that sense of community. What do you do, if you don't mind me asking? A slight hesitation. I'm in tech, software development mainly. Before Ethan could inquire further, Lily interrupted with a splash of her lemonade glass. After lunch, as Ethan was preparing to leave, Willow followed him to his truck. I'd like to make this a regular arrangement, she said. The lawn will need mowing every couple of weeks, and to be honest, I could use help with other things around the house. The previous owners left a shed full of gardening equipment I have no idea how to use, and there are a few minor repairs needed inside as well. Ethan considered the offer. The extra income would be substantial if this became a regular gig. I'd be happy to help out. I do have my main job during the week, but I can come by on weekends or evenings for smaller projects. Perfect. Willow smiled, a genuine warmth in her expression. And please bring Lily anytime, she's delightful company. As they drove away, Lily chattered excitedly about her new friend Miss Willow and the amazing pool, but Ethan's mind was elsewhere. There was something about Willow Prescott that didn't quite add up. She was clearly wealthy, yet there was a simplicity to her that seemed at odds with her obvious means. And the way she'd glossed over her profession, it felt like there was more to her story, but it wasn't his place to pry. She was a client, not a friend, and certainly not something more, despite the unexpectedly strong attraction he felt toward her. Over the next few weeks, Ethan found himself at Willow's home with increasing frequency. What started as lawn maintenance expanded to fixing a leaky faucet, installing a ceiling fan in her home office, and pruning the overgrown rose bushes along her property line. Each time he came, Willow insisted he bring Lily, who had developed an adorable case of hero worship for the woman. Willow taught Lily how to float on her back in the pool, helped her identify constellations with a telescope on the patio, and once spent an entire afternoon making homemade ice cream with her while Ethan repaired the deck railing. Despite his initial reservations, Ethan found himself looking forward to these visits more than he cared to admit. Willow was easy to talk to, and they often found themselves lingering in conversation long after he'd completed whatever task had brought him there. He learned that she was 32, had grown up in a small town in Michigan, and had no siblings. She loved science fiction novels, couldn't cook to save her life, hence the parade of takeout food whenever they were there around mealtime, and was surprisingly knowledgeable about carpentry, often asking insightful questions about his work. What she didn't talk about was her job beyond vague references to work calls and project deadlines. Ethan noticed that her home office was always locked when they were there, and sometimes she would excuse herself to take phone calls in private, returning with a slightly strained expression before quickly brightening again. One evening in late August, after Ethan had installed new light fixtures in her kitchen, Willow invited him and Lily to stay for dinner on the patio. I actually cooked, she announced proudly, lifting the lid on a pot of spaghetti. Well, I boiled pasta and heated sauce from a jar, but that counts, right? It absolutely counts, Ethan assured her with a laugh. It smells delicious. As they ate, Lily regaled them with stories about her first week of first grade, which had just started. Willow listened attentively, asking questions about her teacher and new classmates. Miss Willow, are you married? Lily asked suddenly, in the direct way that only children can manage. Ethan nearly choked on his spaghetti. Lily, that's not a polite question. Willow waved away his concern. It's fine. No, Lily, I'm not married. Do you have a boyfriend, Lily? Ethan warned, but Willow just smiled. No boyfriend either, just me. Lily considered this seriously. My daddy doesn't have a girlfriend. My mommy left us to live in California with her friend Steve. Daddy says she needed to find herself, but I think she's just in California. An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Ethan hadn't shared much about his ex-wife with Willow, and having it laid bare by his daughter was not how he'd planned to broach the subject. "I'm so sorry," Willow said softly. "It's ancient history," Ethan replied, trying to keep his tone light. "It's been 3 years now." "Still, it must have been difficult. We manage, don't we, Lily Bug?" He ruffled his daughter's hair affectionately. "Yep, Daddy does everything. He works really hard and makes me lunch and reads me stories and fixes things for people." Lily beamed at him with such pure adoration that Ethan felt his heart swell. Willow's expression softened as she looked at him. "Your daddy is pretty special, isn't he?" Something in her tone made Ethan's pulse quicken. Their eyes met across the table, and for a moment, the air between them seemed charged with unspoken possibility. The moment was broken by the sudden chime of Willow's phone. She glanced at it, and her expression changed instantly. "I'm so sorry I have to take this. It's work." She stood quickly. "Please finish your dinner. I'll be right back." As she hurried inside, Ethan couldn't help but notice the tension in her shoulders. Whoever was calling, it wasn't a casual work check-in. "Daddy, I think Miss Willow likes you," Lily whispered conspiratorially once Willow was out of earshot. "What makes you say that, sweetheart?" "Because she looks at you like Sophia's mom looks at Sophia's dad, all mushy and stuff." Lily made a face to demonstrate, batting her eyelashes dramatically. Ethan laughed, but his mind raced. Had he been too caught up in his own growing feelings to notice that Willow might reciprocate them? Or was this just the wishful thinking of a 6-year-old who adored their new friend? Willow returned 15 minutes later, her expression carefully composed but a tightness around her eyes betraying her stress. "Everything okay?" Ethan asked gently. "Just a small crisis at work," she said, forcing a smile. "Nothing I can't handle." She glanced at her watch. "It's getting late, though. I shouldn't keep you and Lily any longer." The abrupt shift in her demeanor was jarring, and Ethan felt a pang of disappointment. Just moments ago, it had seemed like they were on the verge of something, but now Willow had retreated behind a polite facade. As they gathered their things to leave, Willow handed Ethan an envelope. "For today's work," she explained. "You know, you could just write me a check," Ethan said. "You don't have to have cash ready every time." A flicker of something was at unease crossed her face. "I prefer cash." Simpler that way. Ethan didn't push the issue, but as he and Lily drove home, he couldn't shake the feeling that Willow Prescott was hiding something. The mystery deepened the following week when Ethan arrived to install shelving in Willow's garage. As he pulled into the driveway, he noticed a sleek black car with tinted windows parked near the entrance. A man in a suit stood beside it, his posture rigid and professional. Willow met Ethan at the door, her expression strained. "I'm so sorry, Ethan. Something's come up at work. I need to postpone today." "No problem," he said, though he couldn't help but feel disappointed. "Everything all right, just a work emergency. I need to fly to New York right away." She glanced back toward the house. "I'll call you when I return, okay?" As Ethan turned to leave, the front door opened, and another suited man emerged carrying a laptop case. He nodded respectfully to Willow. "The secure line is set up, Miss Prescott. The board is waiting for your call." Willow's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. "Thank you, James. I'll be right there." She turned back to Ethan with an apologetic smile. "I really am sorry about this, the board." Ethan couldn't help asking. Willow hesitated. "Yes, I sit on a company board, just another part of my job." Before Ethan could respond, she quickly excused herself and disappeared inside. As he drove away, he replayed the interaction in his mind. Secure lines, board meetings, men in suits who looked like they belonged in a spy movie. Just what kind of software developer was Willow Prescott? For the next week, Ethan heard nothing from Willow. He tried not to dwell on it, but Lily asked about her daily, wondering when they could visit the pool again. He found himself missing their conversations, the way her eyes crinkled when she laughed, the thoughtful questions she asked about his work and his life. Then, late one evening, as he was putting Lily to bed, his phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Is this Ethan Foster?" A formal male voice asked when he answered. "Yes, who's this?" "My name is James Thornton. I'm calling on behalf of Miss Prescott. She asked me to inform you that she has returned from her business trip and would like to know if you're available to come by tomorrow evening around 7. The formality of the call was strange, but Ethan agreed. After hanging up, he sat on the edge of his bed, torn between anticipation and unease. Why hadn't Willow called herself, and why the formal messenger? The next evening, after dropping Lily off at his neighbor's for a playdate, Ethan drove to Willow's house. The same black car from before was parked in the driveway, but there was no sign of the suited men. Willow answered the door herself, dressed in a simple blue dress that made her eyes appear even more vibrant. She looked tired but smiled warmly when she saw him. "Ethan, thank you for coming. Please come in." He followed her into the living room, noticing that for the first time since he'd been visiting, her home office door stood open. Inside, he caught a glimpse of multiple computer screens and what looked like a sophisticated video conferencing setup. "No Lily tonight," Willow asked, gesturing for him to sit on the sofa. "She's at a playdate. Your assistant made it sound like this might be a business meeting, so I thought it best to come alone." Willow winced slightly. "I'm sorry about James, he can be a bit formal, and I'm sorry about disappearing this past week." Things got complicated enough to need men in suits and secure phone lines, Ethan asked, unable to keep the edge from his voice. Willow sighed, sitting across from him. "I owe you an explanation. I haven't been entirely forthcoming about my work." "I gathered that." She met his gaze directly. "I'm not just a software developer, Ethan. I'm the founder and CEO of Prescott Technologies. We specialize in cybersecurity software, particularly for government and financial institutions." Ethan blinked, processing this information. Prescott Technologies. The company that just signed that massive contract with the Department of Defense. Willow nodded. "That's what the emergency was about last week. There was a security breach attempt on one of our government systems. Nothing got through, but it triggered all sorts of protocols, including me having to be in New York for damage control." "So you're not just sitting on a board, you're running the entire company." Ethan tried to reconcile this new information with the woman who had spent afternoons teaching his daughter to make ice cream. "Why didn't you just tell me?" "Because people act differently when they know." She leaned forward, her expression earnest. "When people find out I'm worth billions, they change. They start seeing dollar signs instead of me. She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I wanted you to know me, just me, before all of that got in the way." Ethan absorbed this, his mind reeling. Billions. The woman he'd been developing feelings for wasn't just wealthy, she was in a completely different stratosphere of existence. "So all those times I've been fixing things around your house, installing ceiling fans and mowing your lawn. Was that some kind of experiment? See how the regular folk live?" "No," Willow looked genuinely hurt. "I needed help with those things. I could have hired a professional service, yes, but Mrs. Johnson next door spoke so highly of you, and then I met you and Lily, and..." She trailed off, then continued more softly. "I enjoyed your company, both of you. It's been a long time since I've had people in my life who didn't want something from me." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, struggling with conflicting emotions. "I don't know what to say, Willow. Finding out the person you've been spending time with has been keeping such a massive secret, it's a lot to process. I understand, and if you want to walk away, I would completely understand." Her voice was steady, but Ethan could see the vulnerability in her eyes. "But I hope you won't. Because the truth is, I've fallen for you, Ethan, and for Lily. These past weeks have been the happiest I've had in years." The confession hung in the air between them. Ethan's heart raced as he absorbed her words. She had fallen for him not despite his modest circumstances, but perhaps because of the simple life he led, so different from her own world of board meetings and security protocols. "I have feelings for you too," he admitted finally. "But this changes things, Willow. You're a billionaire CEO. I'm a construction worker who picks up odd jobs on weekends to make ends meet. Our worlds couldn't be more different. Do they have to be?" She moved to sit beside him on the sofa. "The woman who taught Lily to float on her back, who burns pasta sauce and loves stargazing, that's the real me, Ethan. The CEO is just my job. It doesn't define who I am any more than your work defines you." Her proximity was intoxicating, and despite his reservations, Ethan found himself drawn to her sincerity. And what happens when the novelty wears off? When you get tired of slumming it with the handyman and his kid, Willow's expression hardened slightly. Is that really what you think of me? That this is some kind of rich girl's game? No, he admitted after a moment. That's not who you are. But you have to understand how this looks from my perspective. People like you don't usually end up with people like me outside of movies. Maybe that's because people get too caught up in labels and bank accounts to see what really matters. She placed a hand gently on his. I care about you, Ethan, and I adore Lily. The rest is just noise. Their eyes met, and in that moment the gap between their worlds seemed to narrow. Ethan leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to. Instead, she moved to meet him, and their lips met in a soft, tentative kiss that quickly deepened with the release of weeks of growing tension. When they finally pulled apart, Willow's eyes were shining. So where do we go from here? She asked quietly. How about we start with dinner? A real date, just the two of us. No lawn mowing required. She laughed, the sound filling the room with warmth. I'd like that very much. 2 days later, Ethan dropped Lily off at his sister's house for the evening and picked Willow up for their first official date. She'd suggested a small Italian restaurant in town, nothing fancy, and Ethan appreciated the gesture. She was making an effort to meet him in his world rather than dragging him into hers. Over candlelight and wine, they talked more openly than ever before. Willow shared the story of how she'd started her company in her garage 10 years ago, working through nights and weekends to develop her first security algorithm. She spoke about the loneliness of success, how relationships became transactional, and how she'd begun to feel like an ATM rather than a person. That's why I moved here, she explained. I wanted anonymity. A chance to just be Willow again, not the Prescott Technologies CEO or that billionaire woman. When I saw you mowing Mrs. Johnson's lawn that day, you looked so real. No pretenses, no agenda, just a dad working hard for his daughter. Ethan shared his own journey, the pain of his wife's abandonment, the struggle to rebuild a life for Lily, the pride he took in his work despite its modest compensation. I've never wanted to be rich, he told her. I just want security for Lily and to do work that matters. Building things, fixing things, there's something deeply satisfying about creating something tangible with your hands. As the evening progressed, the differences in their backgrounds seemed to matter less and less. They discovered a shared love of old sci-fi movies, a mutual dislike of pretentious people, and the same dry sense of humor. When Ethan drove her home, they sat in his truck outside her mansion, neither wanting the night to end. I had a wonderful time, Willow said softly. Even in my beat-up truck with the broken air conditioning, she laughed. Especially in your beat-up truck, it has character. He leaned across the seat and kissed her, marveling at how natural it felt despite the surreal circumstances of their relationship. When can I see you again? She asked as they pulled apart. Well, Lily has been asking about you non-stop. Maybe we could do something together this weekend. Something normal, no mansions or private pools. Willow's face lit up. I'd love that. Over the following weeks, they settled into a comfortable rhythm. Ethan and Lily would visit Willow at her home sometimes, swimming in the pool or stargazing from her patio. Other times, Willow would join them for pizza nights at Ethan's modest apartment or trips to the local park. Ethan was surprised by how effortlessly Willow adapted to his lifestyle. She never complained about his apartment's size or the fact that the elevator was perpetually out of service. She seemed genuinely content, eating takeout pizza on his worn sofa while watching Disney movies with Lily. For her part, Lily had fully embraced Willow in their lives. Are you Daddy's girlfriend now? She'd asked bluntly one evening as Willow helped her with her homework. Willow had glanced at Ethan, a question in her eyes. He'd nodded, smiling. Yes, I am, she'd answered. Is that okay with you? Lily had considered this seriously. Does that mean you'll come to my school play? I'm going to be a tree. I wouldn't miss it for the world, Willow had promised, and the beaming smile on Lily's face had made Ethan's heart swell. As autumn arrived, bringing cooler temperatures and falling leaves, their relationship deepened. Ethan found himself falling in love with Willow, not the billionaire CEO, but the woman who snorted when she laughed too hard, who couldn't cook to save her life, and who looked at his daughter with genuine affection. Still, there were moments when reality intruded. One evening, while they were making dinner at Ethan's apartment, Willow's phone rang with an urgent call from Tokyo. As she stepped into the hallway to take it, Ethan was reminded of the vast difference in their professional lives. When she returned, looking apologetic, he handed her a glass of wine. "Everything okay? Just a minor crisis with our Asian markets, nothing that can't wait until morning." She took the glass gratefully. "I'm sorry about that. Don't be, it's your job." He stirred the pasta sauce he was making. "But it does make me wonder sometimes." "Wonder what?" "How this works long term. You run a multi-billion-dollar global company. I install drywall and fix leaky faucets. Those worlds don't typically overlap." Willow set down her wine and wrapped her arms around his waist from behind. "They overlap right here in this kitchen, and in that living room where Lily is working on her math homework, and everywhere else we choose to make them overlap." He turned to face her. "You make it sound so simple." "It is simple. The complications come when we let other people's expectations dictate our choices." She looked up at him, her expression serious. "I love my work, Ethan. I won't pretend I don't, but I love you and Lily too, and I believe we can figure out how all of that fits together." It was the first time either of them had said love, and the word hung in the air between them. Ethan's heart raced as he processed her declaration. "I love you too," he said finally, the words feeling right despite the improbability of their situation. As winter approached, they faced their first real test. Willow needed to travel to Europe for 2 weeks for a series of meetings and conferences. It was the longest they would be apart since they'd started dating. "I wish you could come with me," she said as they lay in bed the night before her departure. "Both of you. Lily has school," Ethan reminded her, "and I have that big commercial project starting next week." "I know," she sighed, snuggling closer to him. "I'm going to miss you both so much." "We'll video chat every day," he promised, "and you'll be back before you know it." The 2 weeks stretched endlessly. Ethan was surprised by how deeply he felt Willow's absence. His apartment, which had always been a comfortable haven for him and Lily, now felt emptier somehow. Lily asked about Willow constantly, wondering when she'd return and if she'd bring presents from Europe. They video chatted as promised, with Willow showing them glimpses of London, Paris, and Berlin between her meetings. She looked tired on the screen, the pressure of her work evident in the shadows under her eyes. But she always brightened when Lily appeared, listening intently to the first graders' stories about school and friends. When Willow finally returned, Ethan and Lily met her at the airport. The moment she emerged from the security area, Lily broke free from Ethan's hand and ran to her, launching herself into Willow's arms. The pure joy on both their faces as they embraced made Ethan's throat tight with emotion. Later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep surrounded by the small gifts Willow had brought her from Europe, they sat on Willow's patio, looking up at the stars. "I've been thinking," Willow said, breaking the comfortable silence, "about what you said before I left, about our worlds being so different." "And," Ethan prompted when she paused, "and I think we've been creating our own world right here. A world where I'm not just a CEO and you're not just a construction worker. Where we're just two people who love each other and a little girl who needs both of us." Ethan considered her words. "It's a nice world. It is, and I want to keep building it." She turned to face him fully. "I want us to move in together, Ethan, all three of us." The proposal caught him off guard. "You want us to move in here, to your mansion? Or we could find a new place together. Something that's ours, not just mine. I don't care about the house, Ethan. I care about creating a home with you and Lily." The sincerity in her voice was unmistakable. This wasn't about convenience or playing house. This was Willow asking to build a life with them. "What about your company, your work?" "My company isn't going anywhere, and I've already started making changes, delegating more, establishing better boundaries. I don't want to be the CEO who misses her family's life because she's always working." Family, the word resonated deeply. In just a few months, Willow had become an essential part of their lives, filling a space Ethan hadn't even realized was empty. "I think Lily would love it," he said carefully. "And so would I, but I need you to be sure, Willow, this isn't just dating anymore. This is real commitment to both of us. I've never been more sure of anything in my life." She took his hands in hers. "I love you, Ethan Foster, and I love Lily. I want to build a life with you both if you'll have me. Under the vast expanse of stars, Ethan kissed her, sealing a promise that transcended their different backgrounds and circumstances. They were choosing each other, choosing to create something new together. 3 months later, they moved into a new home smaller than Willow's mansion, but larger than Ethan's apartment. It sat on several acres at the edge of town, with plenty of room for Lily to play and a workshop for Ethan to pursue his woodworking hobby. Willow converted one wing into a home office where she could manage her company while staying close to her new family. On a warm spring evening, as they sat on their new patio watching Lily chase fireflies across the lawn, Ethan marveled at the journey that had brought them here. From that first day when his lawnmower had broken down in Mrs. Johnson's yard to now, sharing a home and a life with a woman he would never have imagined could be his. "Penny for your thoughts," Willow said, noticing his contemplative expression. "I was just thinking about how unlikely all of this is," he replied, squeezing her hand. "A year ago, if someone had told me I'd be living with a billionaire tech CEO who loves my daughter like her own, I'd have said they were crazy." Willow laughed softly. "And if someone had told me I'd fall in love with the handyman who mowed my lawn, I might have been skeptical too. But here we are." "Here we are," he echoed, watching as Lily ran toward them, her hands cupped around a captured firefly. "Look what I caught," she exclaimed, carefully opening her hands to show them the glowing insect. "It's magic." As they admired Lily's discovery together, Ethan felt a profound sense of contentment wash over him. Their worlds had collided by chance: a broken lawnmower, a new neighbor, a single act of helping someone in need, but what they'd built together was no accident. It was a choice, made day after day, to see beyond labels and circumstances to the hearts beneath. And as Lily released her firefly back into the gathering darkness, watching it rise up to join its brethren in illuminating the night, Ethan knew with certainty that this unexpected love between a struggling father and a billionaire CEO was the most valuable thing either of them would ever possess.